Lock the doors, dim the lights, and step into the archive. I am the curator, and these are tonight's selections. The knocking started at 3:04 a.m. First, I thought I was dreaming. A soft, dull tapping sound. Slow, irregular. Tap, pause, tap, tap. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling for a moment, trying to figure out what had woken me up. My apartment was completely quiet. No traffic outside. No neighbors talking through the walls. Just silence. Then it came again. Tap. This time I realized where it was coming from. My bedroom window. A cold feeling slid down my spine, because that didn't make any sense. I live on the 10th floor. There's nothing outside my window except open air and the street far below. No balcony, no fire escape, just a flat concrete wall and a drop to the ground. I slowly turned my head toward the window. The curtains were closed, but faint moonlight leaked through the fabric. The tapping came again. Tap, tap. It sounded exactly like someone gently knocking on glass. My first thought was a bird. Maybe something had flown into the window during the night. But birds don't knock like that. Birds hit the glass. They don't tap slowly, like someone asking to be let in. I sat up in bed. The knocking stopped immediately. For several seconds, the room was completely silent again. Then suddenly, tap, much louder this time. My heart jumped, because it came from the exact center of the window, like someone had deliberately hit the glass. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand and turned on the flashlight. The beam lit up the bedroom faintly, but the curtains were still blocking the window. For a moment, I debated ignoring it, going back to sleep, but curiosity slowly pushed me out of bed. The floor felt cold under my feet as I walked toward the window. The tapping stopped again. The silence felt heavy now, uncomfortable. I stopped about 2 feet from the curtains. My hand hovered in the air. Part of me didn't want to open them. Something about the situation felt wrong. Very wrong. Because no one should be able to reach my window. But another part of my brain kept trying to explain it. Maybe someone on the roof. Maybe maintenance workers. Maybe something had gotten stuck outside the glass. Finally, I grabbed the edge of the curtain and pulled it aside. The moonlight poured into the room, revealing the window clearly. There was nothing outside, just the empty night sky and the faint lights of the city below. I sighed in relief. Clearly, I had imagined the whole thing. Or maybe the building had shifted and the glass made noise. I let the curtain fall closed again and turned around to go back to bed. Then the knocking came again, but this time it didn't come from the outside. It came from the inside of the glass, right behind the curtain. Tap, tap. My heart stopped, because I had just looked outside. There was no one there. Slowly, very slowly, I pulled the curtain aside again. The window looked normal, completely normal, until I noticed something on the glass. 2 faint handprints, pressed against the outside of the window. Fresh, like someone had just placed their hands there. 10 floors above the ground. My chest tightened, because I knew those handprints hadn't been there a moment ago. Then another sound came from the window. Not a knock this time. A long, slow scrape, like fingernails dragging across the glass. Screech. And a voice whispered softly from the other side of the window, right next to my ear. A voice I could somehow hear through the glass. It said, "You saw me." I stepped back from the window so quickly I nearly tripped over the edge of my bed. My eyes were locked on the glass. 2 pale handprints were clearly visible on the outside, pressed flat against the window, 10 floors above the ground. My breathing became shallow, because there was absolutely no way someone could be standing out there. There was no balcony, no ledge, nothing but empty air and the street far below. For a few seconds, nothing moved. The handprints stayed perfectly still on the glass. Then something strange happened. One of the prints slowly slid downward, just a little, like the hand behind it had shifted. My stomach dropped, because that meant someone or something was actually touching the outside of the window. Then the second handprint moved, dragging slowly across the glass, leaving faint streaks behind. My heart was pounding now. I leaned closer to the window despite every instinct telling me not to, trying to see past the reflection of my room in the glass. But the outside was too dark. The city lights below only illuminated the lower half of the building. Everything above that was swallowed in darkness. Then suddenly the glass fogged slightly, like someone had just breathed against it. A new shape appeared in the fog. A circle, right in the center of the window. Someone had placed their mouth there, on the outside, and exhaled. My chest tightened, because if something was breathing against the glass, then something had to be standing there. Another faint sound came through the window, a slow scraping noise, like fingers sliding across the surface. Screech. Then a single word appeared in the fog, written slowly with a finger, each letter dragging across the glass. Open. I stared at the word, my mind struggling to understand what I was seeing. Then the voice came again, soft, barely louder than a whisper, yet somehow I could hear it perfectly, even through the thick glass. Let me in. My hands began shaking, because the voice sounded strangely familiar, not exactly like mine, but close enough to make my skin crawl. I shook my head slowly. No, I whispered. The handprints suddenly tightened against the glass, as if the thing outside had pressed harder. Then something even worse happened. The window handle beside me slowly moved, just slightly. A small metallic click echoed in the quiet room. My heart stopped, because the window handle had just unlocked, and I hadn't touched it. I looked back toward the glass. The fog on the window had faded now, but a new message appeared, written again by an invisible finger, this time longer, more deliberate. The words formed slowly across the glass. You already let me in once. My throat went dry, because the message didn't stop there. A second line appeared underneath it. Look behind you. The words on the window still echoed in my head. Look behind you. For several seconds I didn't move. My eyes were glued to the glass. The two pale handprints were still there, perfectly still, waiting. The room had become so quiet that I could hear my own heartbeat. Slow, heavy. Then the window handle moved again. Another small click. This time the window opened just a fraction. A thin line of cold night air slipped into the room. The curtain began to sway gently. I stepped back instinctively, my mind racing. There was something outside my window, something that could touch the glass. Something that could unlock the window. But the message on the glass said something worse. You already let me in once. That meant the thing outside might not be the real danger. Slowly, very slowly, I turned my head toward the bedroom. Everything looked normal. The bed, the desk, the closet door. Nothing had moved. For a moment I felt stupid for being scared. Maybe someone had played a prank somehow. Maybe I was half asleep. Then I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The closet door was slightly open, just a few inches. I was absolutely sure it had been closed earlier. The darkness inside the closet looked thicker than the rest of the room. almost like it was swallowing the light from my phone. I stared at it for several seconds, waiting. Nothing happened. Then the curtain behind me shifted again. The window slowly opened a little wider. The cold wind entered the room now. A faint whisper drifted in with it. "Turn around." The voice sounded like it was standing right behind me. But when I spun around, the window was still empty. Just darkness. 10 floors above the street. The handprints were gone now. Completely gone. Like they had never been there. My chest tightened. Because if the thing outside had moved, then where had it gone? A quiet sound came from the closet. A slow, soft tap. I froze. The sound came again. Tap. It sounded exactly like the knocking on the window. My legs felt heavy as I stepped closer to the closet. Every step made the floor creak. The door moved slightly on its own, opening another inch. A cold smell drifted out from inside. Damp, old, like something that had been sitting in darkness for a very long time. My hand reached for the closet door. My fingers were shaking so badly I could barely grab the handle. Behind me, the window suddenly slammed open. The wind rushed into the room. The curtain flew upward violently, and the whisper came again, louder this time, right behind my ear. "You shouldn't have looked outside." My heart nearly stopped, because at that exact moment, something inside the closet moved. The closet door creaked slowly, just a few more inches. Something inside had moved. I could hear it now, a soft shifting sound, like someone adjusting their weight in the darkness. My hand was still on the handle, but suddenly I didn't want to open it anymore. Behind me, the window was fully open now. The wind was rushing through the room, making the curtain whip violently. Yet somehow, the rest of the apartment was silent. Too silent. Then the whisper came again, closer than before, right beside my ear. "Open it." I froze, because the voice didn't sound like it was coming from the window anymore. It sounded like it was coming from inside the room, from behind me. Slowly I turned around. The window was empty. Nothing outside. No handprints. No fog. Just the dark night sky and the distant city lights far below. But the whisper continued. "You wanted to see." My chest tightened, because the voice sounded familiar again, almost like my own voice. I turned back toward the closet. The door was wider now, wide enough to see inside, but the darkness inside looked wrong. Too deep, too thick, like it wasn't just darkness, like something was hiding inside it. Then I saw movement. 2 pale shapes slowly appeared from the shadows. Hands. They gripped the inside of the closet door. Long fingers. Thin. Almost identical to mine. The hands pulled the door open completely, and something stepped out. At first my brain refused to understand what I was seeing, because the thing standing in front of me looked exactly like me. Same height, same clothes, same face, but something about it was horribly wrong. The skin looked pale and stretched. Its eyes were too dark, too empty, and its smile was far too wide. The thing tilted its head slowly, watching me, studying me. Then it spoke, in my voice, perfectly. "Thank you for opening the window." My legs felt weak. What are you?" I whispered. The thing smiled wider. Then it glanced toward the open window behind me. Cold air continued to rush into the room. The creature stepped closer, slowly, casually, like it had all the time in the world. Then it leaned closer to my ear and whispered something that made my blood turn cold. "You're the one outside now." Before I could react, The lights in my apartment suddenly went out. Everything became pitch black. For a moment I couldn't see anything. Then the lights came back on. The room looked normal again. The closet was empty. The window was closed. Everything exactly the way it should be. Except for one thing. My phone was lying on the floor. The screen was recording a video. I picked it up slowly and pressed play. The footage showed my bedroom from earlier, but the camera angle was wrong. It was filming from outside the window, 10 floors above the ground, and standing there, looking directly into the glass, was me, smiling.